In Sendai City, the school day ends like any other. In a classroom, a group of students make plans for a study session at a nearby restaurant, a scene of normal, everyday life. As one student starts to leave, a friendly classmate calls out to him, inviting him to join their study group. But the boy, Koryu Karase, flatly rejects her offer. With a cold and distant look, he insists he's fine, leaving the girl stunned by his blunt refusal. As Koryu walks out, another student warns the girl to stay away from him, hinting at a darker side to their quiet classmate. As he walks away, the whispers follow him. Rumors that he's become antisocial since his mother's death, that he violently beat up a senior, and that he now spends his time hunting delinquents on streets. Her friends try to lighten the mood, teasing her about being interested in Koryu. She quickly denies it, but her gaze drifts off, her thoughts still on the mysterious boy. But what she saw wasn't coldness. In that brief moment he turned away, she saw a tear rolling down his cheek. His tough exterior was just a mask. Later, Koryu walks home alone, his scarf pulled up to hide his face. He approaches a familiar railroad crossing, the sound of the signal ringing in the air. The sight of a happy family waiting at the crossing triggers a painful memory, a stark contrast to his own lonely reality. His mind flashes back to a time when he was a small child. He remembers asking his mom why he didn't have a father, and her gentle reply that life is about finding small moments of happiness. He recalls her warm smile as she reassured him, promising that one day he too would find things that bring him joy. The memory fades as the train passes and the crossing gate lifts. Koryu stands alone, the warmth of the past replaced by the cold, silent present. Suddenly, he spots something impossible, a QR code hovering in the middle of the sky. He looks around, confused, as no one else seems to notice it. He pulls out his phone, thinking it must be some kind of stupid prank. But his mother's words echo in his mind, pushing him to scan the code, just in case this is one of those enjoyable things she talked about. He points his phone at the sky and scans the code. Instantly, an app called Dungeon Seekers begins to load, welcoming him by name. He dismisses it as some kind of camera app, but as he looks at the interface, a dark, swirling vortex opens up on the street in front of him. Looking through his phone's camera, he sees the vortex is real, churning silently behind an unsuspecting man walking down the street. An enter button hovers over it. Standing a short distance away, Koryu realizes something will happen if he presses the button. His curiosity gets the better of him. He presses the button. A brilliant flash of light erupts, startling a man walking by. Koryu can only stare in shock, realizing he's at the center of whatever he just triggered. The man, dazed by the flash, looks around in confusion. He was sure he'd seen a student standing right there just a moment ago. But now the spot is empty. Koryu has vanished without a trace. In a flash of light, Koryu's body dissolves into particles. He shields his face as he's pulled into the vortex, and when he opens his eyes again, his surroundings have completely changed. He finds himself in a vast, ancient-looking stone corridor. The air is still, and the only light comes from flickering torches mounted on the walls. He stands in stunned silence, trying to process what just happened. Looking around in disbelief, he questions where he is. The crumbling stone walls and overgrown plants feel ancient and real, a world away from the city street he was just on. He touches the wall, picking up a loose stone. The gritty texture, the smell of damp earth, it's all too real. This isn't a dream. He crushes the rock in his hand, a wry smile crossing his face. It seems he's wandered into a game world. He recalls the app mentioning stats and skills, but his thoughts are cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps. A foul smell hits him, and he turns to see a grotesque creature emerging from the darkness. With dirty green skin, glowing red eyes, and a club in hand, a goblin stands before him. A strange excitement mixes with his fear. This really is just like a game. Without warning, the goblin shrieks and lunges forward, swinging its club directly at his head. Koryu barely manages to block the blow with his school bag, but the impact sends him stumbling. The smile vanishes from his face, replaced by pure terror as the reality of the situation sets in. If he didn't have his bag, he'd be in serious trouble. But his problems have only just begun. Another goblin appears, and behind it looms a massive, pig-like monster, its sheer size casting a terrifying shadow. As the first goblin laughs and attacks again, a surge of adrenaline hits Koryu. He dodges and retaliates with a powerful kick, fueled by anger and a refusal to be toyed with. Realizing he's hopelessly outmatched, Koryu makes a break for it, sprinting down the long, dark corridor as fast as he can. He ducks into a different area, desperately trying to catch his breath. He thinks he's managed to escape, and his mind races. He needs to find an exit, not call the police. An exit is his only priority. Just then, he feels a draft of air and spots a large, ornate gate in the distance. A wave of relief washes over him as he bolts towards what he believes is the exit. But his hope is short-lived. As he rounds a corner, he runs straight into the very monsters he was fleeing. The massive pig demon and its goblin minions are blocking his path to freedom. The pig demon doesn't hesitate. With a single brutal swipe of its massive arm, it sends Koryu flying through the air. He hits the ground hard, his phone skittering away from him. On his hands and knees, Koryu looks up in horror at the towering monster. He knows he has to run, but he's frozen in fear as a goblin closes in to finish him off. The goblin raises its club, its tongue lolling out in anticipation as it prepares to deliver the final, crushing blow. Koryu scrambles backwards, his heart pounding. He's trapped. The monsters he'd been running from are now right on top of him. But just as one of them lunges, another goblin is sent flying from behind, its head gruesomely separated from its body. Koryu can only stare, stunned, as his attackers are suddenly being attacked themselves. The decapitated goblin lands with a wet thud. As the remaining one lets out a terrified shriek, Koryu looks on from the ground, utterly bewildered by the turn of events. Koryu stares in disbelief as the remaining monsters cackle, completely unfazed by the death of their comrades. He realizes with horror that these creatures feel no empathy, only bloodlust. Lying on the ground nearby is his only hope, his phone. Seeing a brief opening while the creatures are distracted, Koryu scrambles across the stone floor toward his phone. This is his only chance. But just as he reaches it, the phone lights up and begins to vibrate loudly. The monsters immediately turn their attention back to him. He's cornered. The pig demon and its goblin minions loom over him, their menacing glares leaving no room for escape. Despair washes over him. He slams his fist on the ground in a fit of rage and frustration. Thrown into this nightmare and attacked by monsters, he can't understand why this is happening to him. He screams, cursing his own life. It feels like nothing has ever gone right for him, and now he's reached his breaking point. His anger gives way to a quiet resignation. He thinks of his mother's wish for him to find joy and apologizes to her in his mind for failing to find anything enjoyable in his cursed life. Just as he gives up all hope, his phone displays a notification. You've received 30 skill points as an initial bonus. His name, Koryu Karase, is displayed on the screen. He stares, dumbfounded. His mind reels. Levels, skills, points, just like a game. But the sharp pain still lingering in his body is a brutal reminder of the danger he's in. With a goblin breathing down his neck, he realizes the terrifying truth. Even if this is a game, the danger is real, and so is the threat of death. In a panic, he grabs the phone and frantically taps the skills button, praying there's something in the app that can save him. Time is running out. With the goblin's monstrous face just inches away, he desperately scrolls through the skill list, his mind screaming for a solution. He scrolls past several options until his finger lands on close combat proficiency. Just as he's about to select it, a goblin raises its club, ready to strike him down from behind. In a final, desperate plea, he screams at the phone, demanding the power to fight back against the monsters closing in on him. He confirms his choice. Instantly, an ethereal energy surges from his chest, spreading through every vein in his body as the knowledge of countless warriors floods his mind. His heart leaps as a new sensation flows through him. It's the thrill of combat, the raw experience of 1,000 battles being etched into his very soul. In his mind's eye, he sees a lone warrior standing atop a mountain of defeated foes. In that moment, he inherits a lifetime of combat experience. The close combat proficiency skill is learned. The fear in his eyes is replaced by a cold, predatory smile. As the goblin swings its club, he dodges effortlessly, moving with newfound grace and speed. With fluid precision, he grabs the attacking goblin, twists its arm, and flips it over his shoulder, slamming it onto the hard stone floor. Before the goblin can recover, Koryu grabs a rock from the ground and brings it down with brutal force, shattering the monster's skull. Koryu stands over the corpse of the goblin, a stark silhouette against the remaining monsters. The pig demon and the last goblin can only stare as the boy they were just hunting becomes the hunter. With cold indifference, he steps over the twitching body. The remaining monsters watch, a mix of anger and confusion in their eyes, as they face this new, terrifying version of Koryu. Enraged by the death of their kin, the last goblin and the massive pig demon roar in fury and charge at him together. For so long, Koryu had lived in a haze, resenting himself and his meaningless life. But now, with his new combat skills, he dodges the goblin's attack and counters with a swift, brutal combination of punches and kicks. The goblin is sent flying. For the first time, Koryu feels truly alive. He calmly walks over and picks up the monster's fallen club. As he faces the massive pig demon, a twisted smile spreads across his face. He's finally found it, the raw, thrilling feeling of a life-or-death battle. His body burns with adrenaline as he charges forward. With a wild battle cry, he swings the club, all his pent-up frustration and newfound bloodlust focused on one thing: killing this monster to feel alive. His eyes are spiraling with madness, a stark contrast to the pig demon's own eyes, which reflect the pure, murderous intent of its opponent. This, Koryu thinks, is what it truly means to be alive. The pig demon swipes its massive claws, aiming to tear him apart in a single blow. But Koryu is too quick. Using the club, he vaults over the attack, the monster's claws shattering the stone floor where he just stood. While still in midair, he brings the club down with crushing force onto the pig demon's head, letting out a victorious roar. The blow sends the massive beast staggering backwards, stunned and injured. Koryu lands lightly on his feet, already preparing his next move. Before the demon can recover, its club swings wildly, smashing into the wall. Koryu easily sidesteps the clumsy attack. A soft, chilling laugh escapes his lips. He touches a fresh cut on his cheek, a small price to pay. In this moment of violence and survival, he whispers to himself, "Mom, I found it." The injured pig demon can only watch as Koryu starts to laugh, a wild and unsettling sound. He declares how much fun this is as he stoops to pick up the demon's own enormous club. Wielding the oversized weapon, Koryu is completely consumed by euphoric madness. He can't get enough of this raw exchange of emotions, the thrill of the fight. With a crazed glint in his eye, he goads the wounded pig demon, inviting it to continue their deadly dance. He leaps into the air and brings the massive weapon down with all his might, a final, devastating blow aimed directly at the monster's skull. The impact caves the creature's head in completely. The massive body slumps to the ground, finally defeated, as Koryu stands silently over his kill. As the monster's body dissolves into black particles, a notification chime sounds from his nearby phone. Koryu watches, splattered with blood, his grim satisfaction shifting to curiosity. As the monster's body vanishes, a notification pops up on Koryu's phone. Level up. Skill points have been awarded. He looks at the screen, his expression unreadable as he processes the information. A cold, knowing smile spreads across his face. From the QR code to the skill points, and now a level up, it seems this deadly new reality operates entirely on the logic of a game. Meanwhile, The scene shifts to the bustling Sendai station at night. A phone rings, pulling the story away from the bloody dungeon and back into the real world. On a rooftop overlooking the city, a young woman answers the call. She introduces herself as Riha Amamiya, confirming with the person on the other end that she has arrived safely in Sendai. The call is coming from the DS management office in Tokyo. A woman at a control console, whom Riha calls sister, confirms that Riha has reviewed the case files for her mission. Her superior warns her that this will be a dangerous investigation. The mission details flash across the screen. Riha Amamiya is in charge of investigating the mass deaths of Dungeon Seekers players in the region. With a calm and determined expression, Riha acknowledges the warning. She vows to swiftly find the cause of the incidents and suppress it, unaware that the very thing she's hunting has just been born. Koryu relentlessly cuts his way through the second floor, his blade a blur of motion as he dispatches another monster. He finally reaches the third floor, where the dungeon's final boss, a massive ogre, stands waiting for him. With a wild, almost unhinged smile, Koryu lunges forward, ready to finish the fight. With one final, powerful blow, the ogre collapses. A notification from the Dungeon Seekers app instantly appears, confirming his victory. The system screen confirms it. Koryu Karace has leveled up to 21 and acquired 3 impressive new titles. He reflects that the fight was surprisingly easy thanks to his new skills, but the strangeness of the app leaves him with more questions than answers. Suddenly, a glowing magic circle appears on the floor. It looks just like the one that transported him here, and he cautiously steps towards it. The circle erupts in a blinding flash of light. In an instant, he's transported to a dusty, cluttered storeroom. He looks around, completely bewildered, wondering where in the world he is now. Scanning the area, he questions if he's back in the real world or in some new kind of dungeon, noting the absence of any enemies. Startled by a noise, he almost drops a stack of old bowls he finds himself holding. With surprising agility, he catches the bowls just before they crash to the floor, sending a puff of dust into the air. He lets out a sigh of relief. He recalls a story about a famous lord who smashed a tea set in a similar situation, and is glad he avoided that fate. Just then, his phone buzzes with a new notification. The app informs him he's entered a special reward room and can now store items. He decides to test the new feature. He taps store on his phone, and the tea set vanishes from his hands, appearing in his item list. He's amazed by the convenience. His exploration is cut short when he finds himself standing before a monstrous, gaping maw lined with razor-sharp teeth. He realizes the room itself may be a trap. Suddenly, a sound makes him jump back. He quickly gets into a defensive posture, ready for an attack. He listens intently, trying to figure out where the noise came from. His eyes dart upward, realizing it came from the floor above. A nervous sweat drips down his face as he cautiously heads up the stairs, drawn toward the gleam of a beautiful katana. He reaches the top of the stairs. There it is, the source of the noise. A magnificent sword, resting silently on a display stand. He wonders if this sword is the source of the powerful presence he's been sensing. As he stares, he notices something unsettling. The deep indigo scabbard seems to be swaying on its own, as if it's breathing. He cautiously reaches out. The sword pulses with a strange energy, feeling less like an object and more like a living creature. The moment his hands touch the sword, his mind goes blank, his eyes losing focus as if he's fallen into a trance. He's completely captivated, a bead of sweat running down his face as the sword's strange power seems to consume his thoughts. Suddenly, a notification sound from his phone snaps him out of it. He reels back, shocked and confused about what he was just doing. Relieved to have broken free from the sword's influence, he wonders what the new notification could be. He gets his answer, in a surge of panic. A message flashes on screen. The reward room will close in just 10 seconds, and there's a time limit. With no time to spare, he decides to store everything he can just as the room dissolves in a flash of light. The scene shifts back to the real world, showing the familiar cityscape and the railway crossing where this whole adventure started. Koryu finds himself standing exactly where he was before, his bag and scarf lying on the pavement. He takes a moment to breathe, confirming he's safely back. He picks up his belongings, reflecting on the experience. It was no dream. He truly felt alive in that life-or-death struggle, a thrill he'd never known before. With a new sense of purpose, he decides his first priority is to gather and organize every piece of information he can find about the Dungeon Seekers app. But his thoughts are interrupted by a voice. He looks up in shock to see a woman in a kimono standing impossibly on the railway crossing signal, asking if he's a new player. She gracefully lands, introducing herself as Venom, a senior Dungeon Seekers player. Koryu is immediately on guard. He can tell from her movements that she's no ordinary person. Venom explains that in exchange for her guidance, she has a small favor to ask, which only makes Koryu more suspicious. With a sweet smile, she holds up her phone, asking him to become her friend on the app. Koryu stares in confusion as the friend request from Venom pops up on his screen. He doesn't know what to make of this strange woman. A short time later, they're sitting in a restaurant. Venom suddenly bows low, apologizing profusely for dragging a high school student into this dangerous world. Koryu is taken aback by her sudden change in demeanor. As the waitress serves their food, Venom casually admits that she was the one who set up the QR code that pulled him in. As they settle in, Venom offers to order him a cheesecake, saying there's much to discuss. Koryu ignores the small talk. He gets straight to the point, asking her to explain exactly what the Dungeon Seekers app is. Venom agrees, though she admits that even as a senior player, she doesn't know everything about the mysterious app. She begins with a stern warning, her reflection visible in his coffee cup. The terms of service strictly forbid sharing any information with non-members, and the penalties for doing so are severe. She explains that the main purpose of the app is to collect items, which can then be traded for real money. More shockingly, she reveals that the skills and abilities gained in the dungeon can also be used in the real world. Venom's tone turns grim as she delivers the most critical piece of information. This is not a game. Injuries sustained in the dungeon are real, and death is permanent. She emphasizes that it's a genuine life-or-death struggle against horrifying monsters. The images of the monsters he faced flash through Koryu's mind. Venom watches him, noticing his intense reaction to her words. Changing the subject, Koryu asks if the items he's collected can be sold. Venom is visibly shocked, exclaiming that he couldn't have possibly reached a reward room already. Koryu downplays his achievement, mentioning only goblins. Venom tells him he was lucky. If he'd faced an E-rank ogre boss first, he'd be dead. She then explains that items can be sold in the app, with 1 point equaling 100 yen. While she talks, Koryu opens his item list. The tea set is worth a decent 15,000 yen. But then he sees the next item, the Katana Dragon Eater, and his jaw drops. Its value is listed as 3.3 billion points. He stares at his phone in disbelief, his mind struggling to process the string of zeros. He silently counts them off. 1, 10, 100,000. The number is so staggering that Koryu spits his coffee all over the table in a comical explosion of shock. 33 billion yen. Venom asks what's wrong, and Koryu quickly recovers, pretending he was just shocked by the 15,000 yen from the tea set. He forces a laugh, deciding to keep the sword's true value a secret while probing her about other rare items. Sensing an opportunity, Venom begins to spin her manipulative story. She claims to have a younger sister suffering from an incurable disease, and the treatment costs an absurd amount of money. She continues her tale, explaining that earning that kind of money in the real world is impossible. Even risking her life in dungeons isn't enough due to her limited abilities. Koryu listens, his expression hardening. Her proposal becomes clear. If they form a party, they can clear more difficult dungeons together and collect valuable items more efficiently. She then reveals why she approached him specifically. She claims it's rare to find someone with the right qualities for the app, so she set up QR codes in public to scout for qualified individuals like him. Tears well up in her eyes as she begs for his help, claiming she feels bad asking a high school student but desperately needs his strength. Koryu sits in stunned silence, completely thrown by her sudden, emotional outburst. He's cornered, unsure how to respond to her desperate plea. Koryu puts on a convincing act. He tells Venom that regardless of her intentions, he's grateful for the invitation to the app and wants to help. Venom's face lights up, her feigned tears of sadness instantly turning into tears of joy. She excitedly asks if he really means it. Koryu continues his deception, saying he's exhausted from the day's events and asks if he can give her his official answer later. Venom agrees, saying it makes sense. She gets uncomfortably close, giving him a tight hug and telling him to contact her later. Koryu awkwardly agrees, barely tolerating the contact. As they part ways outside the restaurant, Venom says she's looking forward to them challenging dungeons together. But the moment her back is turned, Koryu's polite facade drops, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. The scene flashes to one of Venom's past victims, a terrified girl running for her life in a dark cave. She's hit from behind and sent flying. She screams as she falls into a pitfall trap, her body brutally impaled. Lying broken at the bottom of the pit, she begs for mercy, offering up all her money and items. But her pleas are met with cold silence. The hunter, Venom, sadistically recalls her last victim, an old man who died instantly when she tore out his organs. She wants this one to be different. She looks down at the terrified girl, telling her not to die too quickly so she can enjoy this thoroughly. A splash of blood signifies the girl's end. A voice echoes in the darkness, hoping the next player won't die so quickly. This is the true face of Venom, a sadistic newbie hunter. Meanwhile, Koryu isn't waiting around. He heads to a D-rank dungeon in Sendai City to level up on his own. Inside, he finds himself swarmed by giant ants, but he's more than prepared to take them on. He moves with deadly efficiency, cutting down the ant monsters one after another without breaking a sweat. His intuition skill activates, warning him of an attack from above and allowing him to dodge just in time. His close combat proficiency skill kicks in next, allowing him to instantly see the enemy's movements and find the perfect opening for a counterattack. He smirks with confidence. The enemies here are stronger, but the synergy between his skills is so good, he feels like he can't possibly lose. His intuition alerts him to the boss's presence. He stands before the giant queen ant and her massive swarm, ready to conquer this dungeon at the same rapid pace. Back in the city, a notification confirms his success. He's conquered the D-rank dungeon, leveled up, and earned the title One-Man Army. He walks through the crowd with a faint smile. Koryu reflects on his progress, pleased with his level up and new items. More importantly, he's finally accumulated enough skill points to learn a specific skill he's been aiming for. As he muses to himself, a mysterious girl in a dark cloak, Riha Amamiya, appears behind him. Riha Amamiya walks past Koryu in the crowded street, giving him a single, cryptic warning as she passes, "Be careful." He whips around, startled by her voice, but she has already vanished into the throng of people. He brushes it off, thinking it must have been his imagination. After all, if there were any real danger, his intuition skill would have warned him. Later that night, he arrives back at his empty apartment. While taking a shower, he checks his status. He's already reached level 33. He looks over his titles: Usurper, Daredevil, One-Man Army, and Riley notes that they make him sound like some kind of battle maniac. Getting out of the shower, he ponders the meaning of his Natural War Talent title. Its description sounds less like a skill and more like a grim prophecy. As he walks back into his living room, he tries to shrug it off, telling himself it probably just means he's talented. A framed photo of his smiling mother sits on the TV stand. He freezes in his tracks. Venom is standing in his doorway, greeting him with a smug, "I'm here." Koryu is completely shocked and demands to know what she's doing in his house. He wonders how she found his address, annoyed at the thought of the app having a friend tracking feature. Venom simply makes a flirtatious and deeply unsettling comment about his apartment being tidy. She makes herself comfortable on his couch. Koryu warily offers her a coffee, as she claims she has something to consult with him about. He immediately asks if it's about her supposedly sick sister. Venom's demeanor shifts. She drops the act and hits him with a completely bizarre question. "You're not a virgin, are you?" The question is so out of left field that Koryu spits out his coffee for the second time that day. Before he can even respond to her absurd question, his intuition skill flares up, screaming danger as the window behind him explodes. The mask is completely off. Venom's face twists into a sadistic grin as she reveals her true nature. She knows he's been leveling up, and her hobby is playing with virgins like him. An unseen force slams into him, sending him flying out of his own apartment window and crashing onto the street below. He can't believe this is happening. Far away, on a rooftop overlooking the city, Riha Amamiya watches the chaos unfold. Her expression is grim and serious. An explosion erupts from Koryu's apartment building. Riha lands softly, observing the destruction and muttering, "It seems to have begun." Koryu runs for his life through the wreckage-strewn street. Above him, Venom floats, laughing as she bombards him with blasts of dark energy. She mocks him from the sky, impressed by his evasion skills. She wonders if he's using a perception interference item, since no one else seems to be noticing the destruction. He struggles to push himself up from the crater, battered and bruised. The relentless assault is taking its toll. Venom hovers over him, a dark sphere of energy forming in her hand. His skillful dodging leads her to a chilling conclusion. This boy is used to player killing. Koryu grits his teeth, realizing the level difference between them is too great. Even with his intuition skill, he can barely avoid her attacks. His only hope is to hang on and find an opportunity to escape. Venom mocks him from above, asking if he can feel the poison yet. Koryu clutches his chest as his body starts to go numb. He realizes with horror that her name wasn't just for show. She's a poison user. Struggling to his knees, he asks her why she's doing this. With a chilling smile, she tells him it's simply her hobby. Her face twists into an expression of pure ecstasy as she recalls the girl she hunted earlier, describing how she slowly tortured her and how hilarious it was to watch her beg for her life. She cackles, declaring that Dungeon Seekers is the perfect playground for her sadistic games. Seeing the defiance still in Koryu's eyes, she wonders how he can still make such a face. She taunts him, demanding he cry and scream pathetically, to beg for his life in the most miserable way possible. She laughs maniacally, thrilled by the prospect of a new toy. Since he's a higher level than her previous victims, she expects him to entertain her for quite a while. Koryu collapses, the poison finally taking full effect. He's completely at her mercy. Venom watches him, growing impatient. She had planned to cut off his limbs, but he still has enough strength to evade. She decides to wait just a little longer for the poison to fully paralyze him. To pass the time, she decides to chat. She mockingly asks why he decided to enter dungeons alone without contacting her. But Koryu starts to laugh. He reveals the truth. He knew her sob story about a dying sister was completely rotten. He only pretended to go along with it to use her, an experienced player, to get into higher difficulty dungeons. Venom is stunned into silence. Koryu continues, telling her that her method of targeting newbies was obvious from the very beginning. Then, with a look of utter disgust, he delivers the ultimate insult. "Your breath stank. I never wanted to get close to you again." The personal attack makes her snap. Her face contorts into a monstrous visage, her human disguise cracking as she screams in pure rage, promising to tear him apart. As she lunges, Koryu sees his opening. This was the moment he was waiting for. Ignoring the poison racking his body, he summons his trump card, shouting "Manifest." The katana dragon eater appears in his hands. With a powerful roar, he swings the massive blade in a wide, horizontal arc. The force of his swing is immense. The blade cuts clean through Venom's kimono, shredding the fabric instantly. The tattered pieces of her kimono fall away, revealing a skin-tight black suit underneath. Her human disguise is gone. Venom lands, a look of shock on her face. She realizes the dull blade he picked up was his real trump card. She scoffs, saying now that she knows his aim, she'll just whittle him down with ranged poison attacks. But to her disbelief, Koryu is smiling. He informs her that while she was busy licking her chops, he used the skill points he'd been saving to acquire a brand new skill. Venom is incredulous. She refuses to believe he could have possibly obtained a skill powerful enough to overcome this situation. She furiously demands to know what on earth he got. Koryu holds his sword, a dark and powerful aura erupting around him. With a cold, confident gaze, he reveals the name of his ultimate skill, a power intrinsically linked to his legendary weapon, Autumn Sword Dragon Eater. At the Tokyo branch of the DS Management Office, an operator keeps a close eye on a player known as Venom. Her file shows minimal information, but her face gives off a dangerous vibe. Suddenly, a man appears behind her, startling her so much she jumps out of her seat. He leans in with a smug look, complimenting her for working late. He's producer Kuga, and he gets straight to the point, asking if Venom is the suspect in the serial killings. The operator, Amamiya, confirms that they've gathered all the necessary evidence. Kuga reveals they're holding off on her arrest for now. His sister, Riha, is currently tracking Venom, and they've received an interesting report that's changed the situation. The scene shifts, showing the subject of that report, Koryu Karase, a player of the Demon Sword, fantasy class, gripping his weapon, ready for battle. He stands before Venom, who eyes him with suspicion. She senses something is off, wondering if he's bluffing or has a trick up his sleeve. Koryu, meanwhile, weighs his options, thinking he might have to run. But Venom's confidence quickly returns. She believes Koryu is completely frozen, paralyzed by her poison, like a helpless frog mesmerized by a snake. Her thoughts take a dark, twisted turn. She gets a thrill just imagining him suffering a humiliating and messy defeat, completely at her mercy. A beam of light shoots towards her, but she dismisses the long-range attack as useless. Licking her lips, she decides it's time to use her own trump card. She raises her hand to the sky, launching her skill. Koryu watches intently, his eyes fixed on his phone as he analyzes her move. He knows that no matter the skill, it's still just a sword. With a snap of her fingers, the night sky lights up as countless projectiles begin to rain down from above. Koryu looks up in shock. The sky is filled with glowing magic circles, all firing down on his position. There's nowhere to run. As the barrage hits, Venom lets out a wild, maniacal laugh. She taunts him from afar, promising to make him pay for mocking her and asking if he's finally learned his lesson. A massive cloud of dust and smoke covers the battlefield. Standing at a distance, Venom watches the destruction, a flicker of doubt crossing her mind as she wonders if she might have overdone it. But her doubt quickly turns to frustration. It was no fun if she couldn't break him slowly. She hoped there would at least be some pieces of him left to find. As the smoke clears, an unbelievable sight greets her. Koryu is standing there, completely unharmed. Venom's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. She realizes something is terribly wrong. Her magic circles and the poison mist she had deployed are all disappearing, being drawn towards him. A terrifying shadowy form manifests around Koryu's sword. It's devouring her magic, consuming everything she throws at him. Before she can react, Koryu closes the distance in an instant, grabbing her by the arm. A crazed, predatory smile spreads across his face as he snarls, "I won't let you escape." Twisting his body, he unleashes his own secret skill. The air itself seems to tear apart as the massive attack, Dragon Devourer, hurtles towards the terrified Venom. The Dragon Devourer hits Venom square in the stomach. The force of the impact creates a vortex, and she screams in agony as her body is engulfed by the attack. She is sent flying backward through the air, completely helpless against the sheer power of the blow. Koryu watches from a distance as her body hurtles away from the battlefield. As she falls, defeated, a faint laugh escapes her lips. She finally understands the truth about her opponent, whispering, "So, you're also—" A horrifying, monstrous grin spreads across Koryu's face as he finishes her sentence in his mind. In that moment, he accepts the dark truth. He is the same kind of monster as her. Tumbling through the night sky, Venom's final thoughts are of regret. She curses herself for ever messing with him, realizing too late that he wasn't prey, but a true monster. Koryu stands alone on the bridge, watching silently as Venom's body vanishes in a distant flash of light, signifying her defeat and exit from the game. A system window displays the details of his skill, Dragon Devourer. It's described as an unavoidable strike that pierces and consumes its target, an attack that no enemy can escape. Koryu reflects that the skill's immense power is fitting for its massive SP cost. But the strain is too much, and he collapses to one knee, his body racked with the backlash from using such a powerful move. He wonders if the physical strain is still too great for his current level. Venom's words echo in his mind, but he grits his teeth, determined not to become a sadistic monster like her. That's when a twisted realization hits him. To control this monstrous power and not be consumed by it, he needs even more power. With a crazed look in his eyes, he vows to delve deeper into dungeons. Just then, a calm voice calls out his full name. Startled, Koryu spins around, brandishing his sword and shouting into the darkness, demanding to know who's there. His eyes are wide with shock and exhaustion. After such an intense battle, the last thing he expected was another visitor. A figure emerges from the darkness. It's a young girl with short hair, wearing a formal-looking cloak and carrying a long, elegant staff. She stands with a quiet confidence that puts Koryu on high alert. Koryu eyes the newcomer with suspicion, his mind racing. He didn't sense her presence at all, making him wonder if she's an ally of Venom. The girl simply watches him, her expression unreadable. She politely asks if she can speak with him. Caught off guard, Koryu stammers out a response. He immediately cringes, scolding himself for being so awkward after just facing down a killer. The girl introduces herself as Riha Amamiya, stating that she's from the Dungeon Seekers Management. The official title does little to put Koryu at ease. Riha bluntly informs him that he just killed another player and that she needs to take him to Tokyo for questioning. Koryu's suspicion deepens. Her timing is too perfect, and this isn't how management usually operates. He refuses, telling her he can't trust someone who just appeared out of thin air. When Riha looks away, admitting the situation is complicated, Koryu knows he's right not to trust her. Realizing talk is useless, Riha prepares to fight. She warns Koryu that this might hurt as a powerful golden blue energy erupts around her. Koryu watches, his shock quickly turning to fascination as her staff transforms into a complex, geometric weapon. With unwavering resolve, she makes her objective clear. If he won't cooperate, she will subdue him right here and take him to Tokyo by force. But Koryu isn't afraid. Instead, a grin spreads across his face. He can tell from her power that she's a formidable enemy, and the prospect of another real fight excites him. The story takes a step back to explain the world. This is the layered world, a third dimension where the surface world and the underworld overlap, creating a realm of monsters and magic. To combat threats from this world, a special weapon was developed, the Dungeon Seekers smartphone app. It allows users to collect items and develop their skills to fight back against the invaders. Riha explains her side of the story. Her mission was to suppress troublemakers who misuse the app. While tracking a female suspect responsible for players disappearing in the Tohoku region, she stumbled upon Koryu, an even greater unknown threat. Her eyes are fixed on his weapon, the demon sword, Dragon Eater. It radiates a powerful and dangerous aura. Riha recognizes it as a fantasy-class weapon, surpassing even the legendary class. Its majestic appearance is almost enchanting. As she analyzes the sword, Koryu wastes no time and charges straight at her. He swings his massive sword, but Riha effortlessly parries the blow with her slender staff, showing a clear difference in their technique. Riha is impressed by his sharp skills and quick reflexes. Deciding to test him further, she dodges his follow-up attacks, gracefully moving around him to lure him into making a mistake. She deliberately creates a fake opening. Koryu sees it and lunges forward, thinking he has her, only to realize at the last second that it was a trap. Riha easily evades his attack, coolly telling him he's no match for her. Koryu stumbles, his attack missing completely, proving her point. Riha stops the fight to explain the power gap between them. Her golden blue magic acts as a perfect shield that his physical attacks can't even scratch. She urges him to surrender and come to Tokyo, guaranteeing his safety. But Koryu's reaction is not what she expects. Instead of being discouraged, a wide, manic grin spreads across his face as he says, "You're amazing." Riha is completely bewildered. He begins to laugh with pure joy. This is exactly the kind of battle he's been craving, the type of thrilling fight that made him fall in love with combat. He then flips her own words back at her, asking if she really intends to subdue him without injury. Koryu mirrors her promise with a chilling smile, declaring that he'll subdue her without causing any injury. Riha realizes with annoyance that his will to fight is stronger than ever. Riha calmly assesses the situation. While she's confident she could take him down even at his full strength, she knows his trump card, the Dragon Devourer, is unusable after the battle with Venom. Deciding to get serious, she declares they'll start over. She materializes several geometric shapes in her hand and launches one, signaling the beginning of the real fight. In an instant, four massive crystalline shields materialize around her, radiating magical energy. Koryu stares in shock, stunned by the sheer scale of her defensive magic. The shields press in on him from all sides. He yells as he swings his sword, desperately trying to break through the magical barrier. While he's distracted by the shields, Riha lunges forward with her staff. Koryu barely manages to leap out of the way, dodging the swift and precise attack. The battle becomes a high-speed dance of offense and defense. Riha weaves between his attacks, her staff clashing against his sword, while Koryu fights with a look of pure, predatory joy on his face. The fight rages on. Riha unleashes a flurry of attacks, forcing Koryu onto the defensive as shards of her shattered shields fly through the air. She moves with incredible speed, attacking from multiple angles at once. Koryu pushes himself to the limit, parrying her strikes with his sword. Riha notes that he's dodging well, even though she's holding back. Koryu, however, is ecstatic, marveling at her unique fighting style. He laughs, eager for his turn to go on the offensive. But as the battle continues, Riha notices something strange. Koryu's stamina should be at its limit, yet his movements are becoming even more refined and precise. She watches in disbelief. A chilling realization dawns on her. For him, this isn't a chore or a struggle. It's an addiction. He thrives on combat. She finally understands. That's why the demon's sword chose him. But as he continues to fight with a joyous, maniacal laugh, she recognizes just how dangerous that surge of pure battle lust truly is. Koryu's excitement reaches a fever pitch. He tells Riha that words are meaningless. With his sword, he can feel her power and understand her very essence. He declares her the perfect opponent for him, leaving Riha completely unnerved. Riha dodges another one of his wild swings. His unpredictable nature is starting to throw her off balance psychologically. Is he some kind of combat genius, or just hopelessly reckless? After a fierce exchange, they separate. Riha decides it's time to end this. She plants her staff firmly on the ground and calls out his name, preparing to use her ultimate technique. With just a few words, she weaves a powerful spell. Her body begins to turn transparent, fading from existence right before Koryu's astonished eyes. Her form dissolves like smoke, her voice echoing as she completely melts into the world around them, leaving no trace behind. Koryu is left standing alone, utterly dumbfounded. He has no idea where she went or what just happened. He panics, frantically looking around and shouting for her. He swings his sword wildly into the empty air, trying to find any sign of his invisible opponent. From her hidden state, Riha watches him. She thinks to herself that this is her strongest battle technique. No one can find her. She prepares to land the final blow on the astonished freak and end the fight. She strikes from above, aiming for a decisive hit. But in a shocking turn of events, Koryu blocks her attack perfectly, meeting her staff with his sword as if he could see her the whole time. Riha's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. There was no way he should have been able to stop that. Her mind races. He shouldn't be able to perceive her. The very laws of the world shouldn't allow it. For the first time, she's the one who is completely on the defensive. Seeing an opportunity, Riha uses her staff to disarm him, knocking his sword away. Believing she's finally won, she thinks, "I've got him." But she was wrong. To her complete astonishment, Koryu let go of his demon sword intentionally, leaving it floating in midair. Instead of retrieving his weapon, he reaches out with both hands and catches her. Riha is frozen in shock, unable to comprehend how he managed to grab her physical body after she had dissolved into the world. Koryu laughs triumphantly, shouting, "I caught you, Riha," as he holds her firmly. She looks down in a panic, realizing she's been completely outplayed. Riha is terrified, but she reassures herself that without the demon sword, he shouldn't be a threat. But then, an ominous energy begins to radiate from him, and she realizes she's made a terrible mistake. Suddenly, a torrent of dark power erupts from Koryu's body. Riha screams as she recognizes the terrifying energy, black lacquer magic power, a rare and powerful ability. She can't believe her eyes. He's performing a magic deployment, a complex technique that he's only seen her use once. His ability to learn and adapt is beyond anything she's ever witnessed. His dark magic flows into her, overwhelming her senses. She has no way to fight back against this raw, untamed power. The black magic subsides, and the battle is over. Koryu gently holds the now unconscious Riha, his manic expression gone, replaced by a calm and composed demeanor. He looks down at her with a satisfied smile, a stark contrast to the battle-crazed monster he was just moments before. "Thank you," he says softly. "That was fun." Sometime later, the scene shifts to a quiet, traditional Japanese estate under the night sky. Ria's eyes flutter open. She finds herself lying in a futon in an unfamiliar room, completely disoriented and wondering where she is. Koryu's voice answers her question. He's sitting across the room, explaining that this was the house he used to live in with his mother, and that he couldn't just leave her unconscious on a rooftop. Now that the fight is over, they formally reintroduce themselves, the tension between them replaced by a quiet respect. Riha sits up, admitting that she was careless and was completely subdued by him. When he asks if she's hurt, she checks herself and is stunned to find she doesn't have a single scratch on her. Koryu smiles, reminding her of his promise not to injure her. He tells her he wasn't fighting to the death, proving that he had been in control the entire time. Riha can only listen, finally understanding the depth of his ability. Their conversation is interrupted when Koryu points out that her phone has been ringing nonstop. Riha sees it's a call from her sister and quickly answers, only to be met with a frantic voice demanding to know what's going on. Back at the management office, her sister listens as Riha reports that after confirming Venom's death, she failed in her attempt to detain Koryu. Her boss, Kuga, listens in with a serious expression. Riha's poor choice of words, saying she's talking with Koryu in bed, causes a massive misunderstanding, making both Koryu and her sister panic. Kuga calmly takes over the call to get a clear report. After Riha confirms that Koryu is with her, Kuga cuts straight to the point. He tells her he is giving her new instructions directly from management, and Riha listens intently. He then delivers the shocking new order. Riha is to accompany Koryu for the foreseeable future. The unexpected command leaves both of them completely stunned, ending the chapter on a major cliffhanger. The next day, the tense atmosphere of battle is replaced by the smell of home cooking. Koryu Karase, wearing an apron, is in the kitchen preparing a meal while Riha Amamiya watches from the table. He seems completely focused, boiling pasta and chopping ingredients with precision. As Koryu serves a steaming plate of pasta, Riha looks completely bewildered, wondering what she's doing here. He finishes the dish with a final touch, and she can only stare, dumbfounded by the unexpected turn of events. Riha admits she thought he'd kick her out, but Koryu just shrugs it off, saying that after having his life threatened, this is nothing. He places a plate in front of her, casually asking if she likes pasta and suggesting they eat. Riha looks down at the perfectly made spaghetti and meatballs, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She dismisses his concern, saying she has things she wants to ask him too. With the food served, they both put their hands together. Koryu calmly says, "Let's eat," while Riha enthusiastically agrees, clearly eager to dig in. She takes her first bite, and her entire world explodes with flavor. The taste is so incredible it leaves her utterly speechless, far exceeding any expectation she might have had. As they eat, Koryu internally lists all the questions he has for Riha and the mysterious Dungeon Seekers organization. He recalls the strange order for her to stay with him, but decides to put his suspicions aside for now. He glances over at Riha, who is happily swinging her feet as she enjoys the meal. Seeing her so carefree brings a faint, gentle smile to his face. Riha is full of compliments for the food, formally thanking Koryu Karace-san. He tells her to drop the full name, saying it's too formal and she can call him whatever she likes. Without a moment's hesitation, she decides to call him Hiro. The sudden use of his first name makes Koryu spit out his water in shock. As Koryu tries to compose himself, Riha gets down to business. Her expression turns serious as she brings up their previous battle, asking him a critical question. How did he manage to notice her final attack from behind? Koryu calmly replies that it was simply intuition. Riha is stunned. She can't believe that her trump card, her ultimate move, was countered by something as simple as a gut feeling. She wonders if it's some miracle move, a sign of his innate combat sense that led the demon Sore to choose him. She then warns him that if her attack had been infused with magic, he could have been seriously injured or even killed. Koryu looks at her and smiles genuinely, acknowledging her strength. He thanks her, admitting that their fight was fun. After they finish the meal, the light-hearted atmosphere disappears. Koryu's expression hardens as he gets to the main point, asking Riha to tell him what Dungeon Seekers really is. She nods, ready to explain. Riha prefaces her explanation with a warning. Before they begin, he needs to abandon all common sense. Koryu agrees, saying his sense of normalcy has been crumbling ever since the day he first stepped into a dungeon. She starts by explaining the fundamental structure of their reality. There aren't one, but three types of worlds. The surface world where they live, the underworld which is its counterpart, and a layered world where the two realities overlap. Koryu asks if dungeons are located in that layered world. Riha confirms this, dropping a bombshell. Dungeons are not random occurrences. They are enemy military bases, and their world is being threatened by an invasion from the underworld. Koryu reels from the revelation, protesting that it's all too sudden. Riha calmly refutes this, explaining that invasions from the underworld have occurred since ancient times. This long, secret conflict is what she calls shadow history. And within that shadow history, her own family has played a crucial role. She reveals that she belongs to a clan that has protected the world for generations, a group known as the Yokai Slayers. Riha concludes her explanation, revealing that this shadow war is what led to the creation of the Dungeon Seekers app. Koryu listens intently, the weight of this new reality sinking in. With the explanation over, Riha thanks him for the meal and says her goodbyes, stating she needs to return to her base to prepare for their next move. Before she leaves, she reminds Koryu that he fought 2 intense battles the previous night and urges him to rest. He simply smiles and nods, watching her go. The story flashes back to Riha explaining the mechanics of the dungeons. The vortexes that Koryu enters are actually portals to the layered world, opened by invaders from the underworld to steal resources. From the perspective of those on the surface world, these vortexes become the entrances to dungeons, accessed by pressing the plunge button on the app. And the monsters faced inside those dungeons are creatures that originated from the underworld. Koryu is shown single-handedly taking on packs of them with deadly efficiency. While most creatures stay within the layered world, Some manage to overflow from the vortexes, terrorizing the surface world as well. These beings are what people have historically called yokai or demons, and Koryu cuts them down one after another, his skill growing with every swing. As he processes this new information, a wild grin spreads across his face. While the world calls these creatures yokai, his clan, the yokai slayers, have made a living by exterminating them. Riha explains that the skills and levels within the app are actually modern innovations based on ancient yokai slayer rituals. Her own family, the Amamiyas, were even involved in the app's development and operation. Back in the present, Koryu finally understands. Riha apologizes for lying about her involvement. He then recalls the strange reward rooms after boss battles, filled with masks and items that humans can't typically equip. He remembers taking one of the strange, mask-like rewards from a dungeon, deciding to just take anything that looked remotely akeepable. Finding a vortex at the shrine that holds memories of his mother, Koryu's resolve hardens. He doesn't care about the grand invasion from the underworld. His motivation is personal. He simply can't forgive the destruction of a place so precious to him. A predatory smile forms on his lips. He feels himself getting used to conquering dungeons and, filled with a thirst for battle, decides to see just how many he can clear in a single day. Koryu goes on a rampage. He learns that for unknown reasons, there's been an explosive increase in creatures from the underworld, forcing the government and yokai slayers to train new personnel. He successfully conquers an E-rank and D-rank dungeon in rapid succession. The onslaught continues as he clears dungeons of all ranks, one after another. This is the true purpose of dungeon seekers, a weapon and training tool to fight back against the invasion. Finishing her explanation, Riha admits that the app is still in beta. They never anticipated that ordinary members of the public, like Koryu, would end up participating. Riha offers him a way out, a forgetting ritual to return to his normal life. But Koryu's eyes are firm. He declares his choice to continue. With his decision made, Riha officially approves his participation in the Shadow War. The results of his rampage are clear. After conquering another D-rank dungeon, Koryu's status screen reveals his explosive growth to level 41, now boasting an array of powerful titles like Natural War Talent and One-Man Army. His face is flushed with pure, manic joy, a stark contrast to his formerly lifeless expression. He shouts his gratitude for the Dungeon Seekers app, proclaiming that his stagnant life has finally found a new, thrilling purpose. Standing amidst the phantoms of the bosses he's defeated, Koryu makes a bold declaration, his voice filled with newfound purpose. He will conquer every single dungeon in Sendai. Later that night, the battle-crazed energy fades. Koryu walks home alone under the starry sky, the city quiet around him. He seems lost in thought, processing the day's events. But as he arrives home, he finds a surprising sight waiting for him. Riha stands at his gate, suitcase in hand, clearly intending to stay, as per her orders. Koryu is stunned to see her. She casually calls him hero and asks what he's doing out so late, much to his surprise. Forgetting his exhaustion, Koryu's face lights up with manic excitement. He rushes towards Riha, telling her he has to share what he's been up to. He unleashes a torrent of words, excitedly recapping every dungeon he conquered. He talks about the 200 million yen item he found, a cool horn dog boss, a disgusting tentacle monster, and even a special slime, leaving Riha completely bewildered and overwhelmed by his sudden burst of energy. He gives a thumbs up, a huge grin on his face as he exclaims how much fun it all was, completely oblivious to Riha's silent, unimpressed stare. Her expression suddenly darkens. With a chilling smile, she reminds him of her earlier advice, that after fighting her, a high-ranking slayer, he should be resting. Koryu freezes, the memory finally hitting him. Riha announces that it's time for a lecture. As his newly assigned monitor, she's about to lay down the law. The next day at school, the atmosphere is completely different. As Koryu walks through the hall, a classmate spots him, surprised by his presence. The girl, Sato, catches up to him. She nervously mentions that the teacher was looking for his career path for him, but that's not the only reason she approached him. She tells him that he seems much brighter lately. Koryu is taken aback for a second, then gives a small, genuine smile. He replies that maybe it's because he's found something fun to do. He waves goodbye, promising to bring the form the next day. Sato watches him go, happy to see her formerly gloomy classmate looking so much better. The scene flashes back to the previous night's lecture. Riha insists he can only do 5 dungeon attempts per day. Koryu, sitting on the floor, throws a childish fit, refusing the limit. Riha warns him that at this rate, his body will break down. To convince him, Riha makes a powerful offer. If he accepts the limit, she'll personally accompany him to a C-rank dungeon the next day. Koryu, who was just thinking about tackling a higher rank, is immediately tempted. The deal is struck. When Koryu quietly agrees, Riha playfully pretends she can't hear him, forcing him to shout his promise. She smiles, having successfully reined in his addiction. But the next day, Koryu is already trying to find a loophole. On the train after school, he texts Riha, attempting to renegotiate his dungeon limit up to 10 attempts per day. Riha immediately shoots him down. He arrives at Sendai Station to find her already waiting. Dressed in her Slayer attire, she greets him with a cheerful hero. They need to find a suitable C-rank dungeon, but Koryu is one step ahead. He tells her he's already found one and that they should head there right away. Suddenly, a massive black vortex rips open in the middle of the busy station plaza. Riha calmly identifies it as their C-rank target. Koryu panics, pointing out all the people around, but Riha seems completely unfazed. Riha just smiles, telling him it's fine and to hold her hand. Koryu, flustered by the public display and the crowd of onlookers, hesitates. She explains that she'll use an invisibility spell on them. Koryu realizes this is her solution, but he's still embarrassed, wishing she wouldn't do things that make her stand out so much. He takes her hand, and in a flash, they're transported from the busy station into the C-rank dungeon, a desolate wasteland filled with pillars and prowling, beast-like monsters. Upon arrival, they're immediately faced with enemies. Koryu assumes they are the bosses, but Riha casually dismisses them as mere small fry. She tells him she'll handle this wave and instructs him to watch her closely. Suddenly, the ground trembles as the massive stone pillars are ripped from the earth and launched into the air like a barrage of missiles. Koryu watches in shock as the pillars rain down on them, realizing the very environment is hostile. Riha shouts a warning, explaining that from C-rank onwards, dungeons have their own traps and defense mechanisms. She tells him not to let his guard down for a second. Without missing a beat, Riha charges head-on into the fray, spear at the ready to face the horde of yokai. She moves with incredible speed and power, dispatching the monsters with brutal efficiency. A kick here, a spear thrust there, and the enemies are torn apart in an instant. Koryu can only watch as Riha dances through the battlefield, a whirlwind of destruction leaving a trail of defeated monsters in her wake. He's completely captivated by her movements. He thinks to himself that her fighting style is both beautiful and overwhelmingly strong, and the more he watches, the more he understands a massive gap in their power levels. After she effortlessly clears the area, Riha notices Koryu's intense stare and asks if something is wrong. He can only praise her, admitting she's so incredible he thought she could clear the dungeon all by herself. Riha admits she can handle dungeons up to C rank alone, but anything higher would be impossible. She then delivers a sobering warning. From this point forward, they'll be facing legendary class yokai. These legendary yokai are ancient, powerful beings from the underworld whose destructive rampages across the surface world have been recorded as myths and legends throughout history. They arrive before a massive, ornate door. Riha announces that this is the final boss. But then she gives him a new command. She wants to test his power, and he must face this challenge alone. The doors open to reveal a horrifying, gigantic beast. Riha introduces it as the Devourer, a legendary yokai whose tales of destruction are known all over the world. As Koryu prepares to face the monster, Riha tells him that his demon sword is powerful, but it's useless without the courage to face such a terrifying opponent. The Devourer unleashes a wave of pure killing intent. But instead of fear, Koryu feels a familiar thrill. For him, this suffocating pressure is what it feels like to be on the edge of death. A grin spreads across Koryu's face. He tells Riha that the Devourer isn't the one to be feared in this fight. He is. Riha watches him, a faint smile on her lips. She understands now. This is his true nature, a pure battle addict thriving on the edge. With a simple, do your best, she gives him the go-ahead. Koryu immediately charges, running headfirst towards the colossal beast, ready to throw himself into a battle where the odds are stacked impossibly against him. Riha watches from the sidelines, analyzing the fight. She knows Koryu is being pushed back. At his current level, he's severely underpowered. A single direct hit from the legendary yokai would be enough to finish him. Koryu barely dodges a massive bite attack, sliding right under the beast's jaws. Riha knows that what bridges this huge gap in power isn't just stats, but pure technique and courage. Seeing an opening, Koryu leaps high into the air, sword raised, determined to take the monster's head in a single blow. But the Devourer is shockingly agile for its size. It leaps to meet him, and Koryu can only stare in disbelief. Riha watches, knowing the fight isn't over yet. Koryu lands just in time to avoid being crushed as the monster's head slams into the ground, shattering the rock where he stood a moment before. The Devourer grins, thinking it has the upper hand, but Riha calls out to it, telling it not to be so proud and to look closer. The beast roars in pain. In a godlike feat, Koryu had not only dodged the devastating attack, but had also managed to land a clean strike on the yokai's back. Riha is stunned. He's not a trained soldier or a slayer, just an ordinary person. Yet, he's performing feats that shouldn't be possible. She realizes that the yokai, which had been radiating killing intent, is now looking at Koryu with pure fear. He is, without a doubt, a natural talent. In that moment, the tables have turned. The legendary Devourer finally understood that it was no longer the hunter. It had become the prey. Koryu taunts the beast, telling it to be afraid of him. Riha recognizes this overwhelming pressure. It's the same secret technique she witnessed during their spar. He unleashes his ultimate skill, pouring all of his power into his sword as he yells its name. Dragon Devourer. The attack lands, and the legendary yokai dissolves into black particles, its reign of terror finally over. With the battle won, Koryu lets out a crazed, triumphant laugh. But as Riha watches him, her face is full of worry. She fears that his focus on dungeons will turn into an obsession, leading him down a path to ruin. She watches him walk away from the carnage, a grim realization dawning on her. As a fellow warrior, she might be the only one who can stop him if he goes too far. The tension breaks as Riha congratulates him, telling him it's time to collect their reward and escape. With the danger gone, they're both excited about what loot they might find. Back in the real world, Koryu complains that the reward wasn't great and the whole ordeal was just tiring. Riha simply listens as they walk away from the station. To celebrate, Koryu suggests they go to a cafe. He asks Riha if there's any place she wants to go, but the question sends her into a silent panic. At the cafe, her confusion is obvious. She admits to Koryu that she knows nothing about places like this. He suggests a cake set is a safe bet, but she just blankly repeats the words, completely lost. Koryu asks if she's ever had coffee. Riha proudly announces she knows all about it, since her sister practically lives on the stuff. Her confidence shatters, however, when he suggests a café au lait, and she flatly rejects the unknown term. The situation gets even more confusing when he tells her to pick a cake. She hesitantly asks if it's different from manju, a sweet she's familiar with. Koryu, exasperated, has to reassure her that he's not tricking her into eating something bitter. After a moment, she sighs in defeat and agrees to try something from the menu. Before Koryu can ask his question, Riha makes her choice. She points at the menu, declaring she'll have the creme brulee. Koryu sighs, realizing she only picked it because the name sounded like a new type of yokai. While they wait, Koryu brings up his question. He was curious about the branch vortex designation for the C-rank dungeon they just cleared. Riha smiles, realizing she hadn't explained that part of the system yet. She explains that dungeons grow like trees, gathering magical power from the world. Like roots and leaves, they expand, starting from a single trunk and branching out. A diagram of the dungeon tree appears. The A-rank dungeon is the trunk, B ranks are large branches, C ranks are smaller branches, and so on. She explains that by conquering a higher-ranked dungeon, all the lower-ranked dungeons connected to it are destroyed automatically. Just as the waitress brings their order, the realization hits Koryu. His hand clenches. He finally understands the most efficient path forward. His goal was to conquer all the dungeons in Sendai. Now he knows he doesn't have to clear every single F-rank twig. He just needs to cut down the tree at its source, the A-rank trunk dungeon. He knows the difficulty will be immense. Even Riha admitted she couldn't handle a B rank alone. But with a determined smile, he accepts the challenge. He finally has a concrete goal, and the only thing left to do is get stronger. While Koryu was lost in his ambitious planning, Riha takes her first bite of the creme brulee. The taste is a revelation, leaving her in a state of pure bliss. Koryu tries to get her attention to discuss their next move, but she's completely absorbed. He tries again, asking if she's listening. She snaps to attention, still dazed from the dessert. Koryu states that it will be tough to challenge a B rank until they're stronger. Riha agrees, her professional demeanor returning. She lays out their new plan. For a while, they'll focus on clearing C and D rank dungeons to help him level up and to improve their coordination as a team. As they leave the cafe, Koryu casually points out that she still has cream on her mouth, causing her to blush. A final status update reveals the fruits of his labor. Koryu has reached level 52, gaining powerful new skills and titles like Fearless Hero and Castle Siege Expert. Koryu Kurace unleashes his ultimate skill, Dragon Devourer. The massive monster is instantly torn apart in a vortex of raw power. With the dungeon boss defeated, Riha Amamiya gives him a satisfied smile. But as Koryu sheathes his weapon, a strange burp sound echoes from his legendary blade. Koryu freezes, wondering if his sword really just burped. Just then, Riha calls out to him, pointing out that a new message from the app has just arrived. He checks his phone and sees a new feature, optimization. Riha leans in, explaining that this is a special customization function that allows him to integrate skills and titles to discover new abilities. Looking at his status, he sees a new title has been added, Samurai's Pride. Without hesitation, his finger moves towards the Optimize button. A huge, goofy grin spreads across Koryu's face. He's absolutely thrilled about being called a samurai. Riha, however, just watches him with a look of utter confusion. Later that night, the scene shifts to a train rattling along the tracks, cutting through the darkness of the city. On board, Riha comments on how Koryu's skills and titles are unusually Japanese style. He agrees, admitting that the lack of foreign words makes things much easier for him to understand. Taking the opportunity, Koryu decides to ask Riha for her professional opinion on which skills he should aim for next. Riha thinks it over, suggesting that going all in on Japanese-style attacks is his best bet, as it might even lead to skill evolution in the future. Following Riha's advice, Koryu scrolls through the app, considering a skill called Castle Siege Strategy. Riha quickly warns him not to spend too many skill points, as they'll be needed for evolution later on. But Koryu simply replies, "Got it." Her eyes widen in shock. She can't believe it. A skill that can be evolved is already available to him right now. Riha excitedly explains that skill evolution lets him learn an incredibly powerful original technique. Koryu, however, is floored by the steep cost, 3 titles and a whopping 100 points. He remarks that it's basically like a unique skill in a video game. Their conversation gets a bit loud, causing Riha to blush and apologize when another passenger clears his throat nearby. With his decision made, Koryu taps the OK button to evolve his skill. A brilliant flash of light erupts from his phone screen. A notification appears, revealing his brand new skill, Indomitable Courage. It's a powerful ability with both a passive and active component, allowing him to face any fear and surpass his physical limits. As they step off the train and onto the platform, both Koryu and Riha are silent, still processing the incredible power-up that just took place. Koryu feels a little guilty for using 100 points without consulting her, but Riha is ecstatic. She reassures him it was the right call, admitting she never thought she'd witness someone reach the state of a yokai slayer right on a public train. Hearing this, Koryu is stunned. Riha goes on to explain that this very process, acquiring a powerful and unique skill through evolution, is precisely what separates the regular fighters from the high-ranking yokai slayers. Feeling proud, Koryu asks if this new power makes him as strong as Riha. She shuts him down instantly, stating that what he has is just a unique ritual technique. With a smug grin, Riha declares that what she possesses is a decisive battle technique, a level far above his. As she boasts about being stronger, Koryu just smiles, thinking that her childish competitiveness means she's finally comfortable around him. A few days pass over the bustling city of Tokyo. Inside the DS management office, a high-level meeting is in session. A woman presents the latest trends on the Dungeon Seekers beta, announcing that the next topic is player data. One of the executives notes that while the average player level has gone up, there's still a huge gap between them and the top 15 high rankers. The presenter pulls up Koryu's data, pointing out that new players in the Tohoku region are clearing dungeons at an alarming rate and could soon challenge the top-ranked players. An old man with a long white beard recognizes the player as the one who defeated the serial killer, calling his record impressive for someone so young. But looking at Koryu's stats, another executive scoffs. The sheer number of conquests is so high that he finds the record suspicious, claiming a normal person would have gone insane by now. A man named Kuga calmly pushes back, reminding them that one of the app's main goals is to find exceptional talent that traditional methods would have overlooked. The old man glares at him with suspicion, but the old man isn't convinced, tapping the table impatiently. He grits his teeth and says he couldn't care less about the players. He's more worried about the country's preparations for the coming war. Kuga smirks, reassuring him that the government's upper echelons are already devising strategies for the anti-yokai war. Kuga continues, explaining that with modern firearms and technology, the balance of power could easily shift away from the traditional yokai slayers. Enraged, the old man slams his fist on the table, demanding to know if Kuga is calling the slayers inferior. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. The old man seethes with rage, while Kuga calmly adjusts his glasses, completely unfazed. Suddenly, the old man stands up and announces he has an urgent matter to attend to, quickly leaving the heated meeting. The other members watch in silence. Another executive, sweating nervously, advises producer Kuga to keep such inflammatory statements confined to this room. Kuga just gives a dismissive shrug, a smug look in his eyes. The presenter, Riha's older sister, tries to get the meeting back on track. She confirms the abnormal conquest speed of the Tohoku players and informs the board that her younger sister has placed the relevant player under her direct management and is overseeing his development. The executives are shocked to learn that the person responsible for managing this prodigy is none other than the famous yokai slayer, Riha Amamiya. The board members express their confidence, agreeing that with Riha on the case, there shouldn't be any problems. Still, they admit the situation feels a bit precarious and ask Riha's sister if she's worried. To prove everything is under control, one of the executives asks to see the latest work report from Riha. Her sister confidently agrees. With a steady hand, she prepares to display the report on the central projector for everyone in the room to see. But instead of a formal report, the projector flickers to life with a shaky, vertical video. It's Riha greeting her sister with a peace sign, explaining that Hiro has been taking her to various places. As the bubbly video Riha gushes about how kind he is and how much fun she's having, her sister stares in wide-eyed horror. The board members are utterly bewildered. Riha in the video then excitedly asks her sister if she knows about conveyor belt sushi, explaining that the sushi literally rotates, as if it were a groundbreaking discovery. She even does a little dance to demonstrate, mimicking the movement of the conveyor belt with a whooshing sound effect. The embarrassing vlog continues, with Riha laughing as she recounts a story of how Koryu had to desperately stop her from making a mistake at the sushi restaurant. As the video concludes with a story about Koryu's face turning red from too much wasabi, Riha's sister can't take it anymore. She covers her face in absolute mortification while the executives watch, speechless. Humiliated, she frantically clears her throat and shuts off the projector, cutting the video feed mid-sentence. She offers a stiff apology to the board. One of the members deadpans. Under management, you say, as the memory of the cheerful video hangs in the air. But Kuga just laughs it off. With a dismissive gesture, he declares that it's fine, stating that the young lady has many points deserving of sympathy, much to the confusion of the other board members. His tone darkens. He calls her path pitiful and coldly suggests that they should just think of this as her last taste of freedom and forgive her antics. The other executives are visibly shaken by his cruel and dismissive words, a heavy silence falling over the room. With the tense meeting finally over, the executives adjourn for the day and begin to file out of the building. Left alone in the empty conference room, Riha's sister clenches her fist, her face a mask of anger and frustration as she glares out at the city and whispers her sister's name. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a remote, traditional shrine hidden deep in the mountains under the starry night sky. The atmosphere is heavy and ominous. Inside, dozens of masked figures are gathered, all kneeling in reverence before a single, authoritative leader at the head of the room. The leader, a scarred old man, roars in fury, addressing his followers as the proud yokai slayers. He rallies them against the upstart Kuga, his voice filled with righteous anger. He proclaims that through Kuga's app, their sacred techniques and the pride they've built over 1,000 years are being stolen and handed over to the government. His words incite the crowd. The slayers cry out in agreement, vowing that they must not hand over the secret techniques of their ancestors and that they must strike down the traitor, Kuga. Just as their outrage reaches its peak, a figure in a demonic mask raises a fan, and with a single command to calm themselves, the entire room falls silent. The masked figure addresses the leader as Lord, and the other high-ranking members of the clan look on with grim determination, their intentions clear. The masked slayer declares that before they crush Kuga's ambitions, they must first punish the unworthy players who have gained power through his app. Their targets, the top 5 ranked players. But another slayer bows, requesting the addition of one more target. He's referring to the one who defeated their assassin. The masked slayer acknowledges that while the serial killer had her flaws, she was no ordinary fighter. A flashback shows the moment Koryu struck her down. The Lord erupts in fury, realizing that this is the same player Kuga has his eye on. He declares that if left alone, this boy could become a serious threat to their plans. The masked slayer bows. The decision is made. With a simple very well, Koryu is officially added to their hit list. With their targets confirmed, the masked leader makes a final, chilling declaration. This is a righteous battle for the pride of the yokai slayers, and they will strike on the night of the next full moon. Far away, back in the city, Kuga stands in his office, gazing out at the sprawling metropolis, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing against him. A smug grin spreads across his face. He muses that his app, Dungeon Seekers, is a truly innovative technology, designed to make the intentions of various factions intertwine and complicate the situation. He knows exactly what he's doing. The chapter closes on a final, symbolic image of Koryu and Riha walking away together. A voice explains that this is precisely why the world needs people like them, those who are tormented by fate. The stage is set for a bloody conflict. Hiro and Riha finally arrive at the B-rank dungeon, the Great Branch Vortex. Riha senses an incredibly powerful energy and asks Hiro if he'll be all right. He smirks, noting her concern is unlike her, even as he admits this dungeon would normally take multiple slayers to conquer. But Riha simply takes his hand, declaring with confidence that everything will be fine because this time she's right here with him. She reminds him how strong he's become, easily conquering C-rank dungeons all by himself. A faint smile appears on his face as he agrees, acknowledging all the hard work he's put in. Memories of their time together flash by, training, eating, and fighting side by side. It's because they have each other that they can face this challenge. With renewed determination, they grip each other's hands, their eyes blazing with excitement. Together, they shout their resolution to conquer the B-rank dungeon. The moment they step inside, they're plunged into a dark, eerie space. Strange, worm-like creatures with gaping mouths drift all around them. Hiro immediately feels a chill run down his spine. His intuition screams at him that this place is incredibly dangerous. Riha explains that these are vortex eels, a type of yokai that's tough and attacks in groups. She tells him that thanks to her invisibility spell, they haven't been noticed yet, warning him not to touch any of them as they move. As they carefully navigate through the swarm, Riha can't help but look nervous. The eels writhe unsettlingly close to their feet. Hiro lets out a sigh of relief, realizing it would be impossible to clear this floor alone. The sheer number of monsters would attack all at once if they let their guard down for even a second. Just ahead, a faint light signals the exit. Hiro spots it and urges Riha to stay alert until the very end, determined to make it through. But just as they near the exit, one of the eels brushes against Hiro's leg. Riha gasps his name in shock, her eyes wide with panic. In an instant, the illusion shatters. The darkness comes alive with countless gaping mouths as the entire swarm turns towards them. Their cover is blown. Riha yells that she'll intercept the oncoming wave and tells Hiro to get ready. He quickly draws his weapon, preparing for the fight. Without hesitation, the pair dives straight into the fray, cutting and dodging through the chaotic swarm of monsters. Riha quickly casts a spell, unleashing a barrage of diamond-shaped energy blasts to thin out their numbers. Her magic shoots through the air, piercing several eels. But for everyone they take down, more appear. Hiro asks how it's going, and Riha grits her teeth, shouting back that it's no good. They're completely surrounded. Riha panics, realizing there are just too many of them. At this rate, they'll be overwhelmed. Thinking fast, Riha switches tactics. She yells that this is how they can use their true abilities. She'll provide support while he fights head-on. With a determined grin, he agrees and lunges into the horde. Hiro becomes a blur of motion, his blade flashing as he carves a path through the writhing mass of vortex eels, trusting Riha to back him up. Their teamwork is flawless. As Hiro calls out his next move, he marvels at how perfectly Riha understands his sword techniques, providing flawless support. She anticipates his attacks, creating openings for him to strike. The ritual engraved in his very soul tells him what to do next. As Riha shouts that his soul is trembling on this stage, they spot an opening in the swarm and unleash a powerful, synchronized thrust. Caught up in the adrenaline of the battle, Hiro suddenly scoops Riha into his arms, shouting, "Riha, you really are the best woman for me." She is left completely speechless and flustered by the sudden declaration. He unleashes his secret sword technique, Dragon Devourer. A whirlwind of powerful slashes cuts through the air, decimating the monsters in their path. His attack carves a clear path straight to the exit. Without a second thought, Hiro tells Riha to hold on as he charges forward, carrying her bridal style through the opening. He tells her he's counting on her to clear the rest of the eels blocking their way. Riha is still reeling from his earlier comment, her face bright red as she stammers in embarrassment. But she quickly snaps back to her senses. With a newfound confidence, she throws out her hand and declares, "Yes, leave it to me." While still in his arms, she unleashes another powerful blast of magic. The thrill of the moment is infectious, and she excitedly calls out his name. He asks what's gotten into her. As Hiro leaps and dodges through the remaining enemies, a thought crosses his mind. He knows he absolutely shouldn't be enjoying a life-or-death situation this much. But he can't help the smile spreading across his face. He's actually starting to have fun. And he's not the only one. Tucked safely in his arms, Riha lets out a laugh filled with pure, unadulterated joy. Riding the wave of their momentum, they race towards the exit, both of them sharing in the exhilaration of the battle. They safely make it to the 4th floor, which serves as a rest area. Realizing this dungeon has 8 floors in total, they decide it's a good time for a light snack, happy to be halfway through. Looking at the dungeon's dark sky, Hiro muses that the moon must be out in the real world by now. Riha adds that higher difficulty doesn't always mean more floors. Some dungeons are just a single level. Riha suddenly asks if he just leveled up. Hiro checks his phone and confirms he gained 2 levels and 2 new titles. But Riha is more interested in his limited edition matcha latte, asking if she can have a sip. Hiro's status screen shows he's now level 76. As Riha happily sips his drink, he sees his 2 new titles, Moon Sword and Perfect Pair, wondering what they mean. He reads the description for Moon Sword, but the poetic language about a great vessel waxing like the crescent moon leaves him more confused. Riha agrees it's as incomprehensible as his natural war talent, and tells him to just skip it. Her curiosity piqued, Riha leans in closer and asks about the other title, Perfect Pair. Hiro hesitates for a moment, a sense of foreboding washing over him. The title's description fills the screen, speaking of a man and woman who fight as one, feel out of place when apart, and gain enhanced abilities when battling together. As the words hang in the air, they both fall silent, a deep, embarrassed red flushing their cheeks. As Hiro continues to read the details from his phone, the camera zooms in on Riha. The words echo in her mind, and the full weight of the title's romantic implications hits her all at once. Her eyes go wide, her mind completely short-circuiting. Riha is completely overwhelmed. Sweat drips down her face, her cheeks are flushed, and her mind short-circuits from the sheer embarrassment of it all. She stammers uncontrollably, waving her hands in a panic. Hiro, trying to get the situation under control, tells her to calm down. He reminds her that they're still in a dangerous dungeon, surrounded by yokai. Riha takes a deep breath and agrees, trying to regain her composure. But little do they know, a group of mysterious men are observing them from the shadows, initiating a ritual called the Great Shaking Ceremony. But before they can talk about it further, the ground beneath them begins to tremble violently. They both lose their balance, shocked by the sudden tremor. The bridge they're standing on starts to crumble and break apart. Both of them stare in horror as the path in front of them disappears into a deep chasm. Hiro loses his footing and plummets into the abyss. He shouts for Riha to stay back as she screams his name, reaching out for him in vain. As she's left alone on the ledge, she sees figures emerging from the pillars around her. She's surrounded. A group of older, imposing men appear on all sides. An old man with long white hair and a headband smirks, standing beside a bald, muscular man in a martial arts uniform. Riha looks around, her mind racing. They aren't players. They're yokai slayers. She can't understand why they would be here. The scene shifts to a flashback. A terrifying figure sits on a throne, his eyes burning with rage. He remembers seeing this new era of players as a disgrace. Late at night, under a full moon, a meeting was held. The man declared that the time had come to act. For the pride of the yokai slayers, they decided to reclaim their honor from the players who had stolen their purpose. A woman with a confident smile overlooks a training ground where slayers are brutally dispatching monsters. The man announced their great cause to a group of loyal followers, who charged forward with murderous intent, ready to eliminate the competition. Their mission was simple, and their leader's voice rings out with chilling resolve. Kill all the players. Her smile never wavers as she watches her warriors attack a powerful monster. One of the players, a knight in full armor, is caught completely off guard as the slayers swarm him from all sides, striking him down before he can even react. He cries out in pain and confusion, asking who they are and what they're doing. A hooded slayer grabs him by the throat, sneering that they'll take the head of an insolent player like him, before plunging a weapon into his chest as the other slayers cheer. Back in the present, the ritual's power shatters the ground, sending debris flying everywhere as the chasm widens. Hiro coughs amidst the dust and falling rocks, wondering what floor he's landed on. As the dust settles, he sees a lone figure standing in the mist. Through the clearing smoke, he makes out the shape of a girl with long, dark hair, crying softly to herself. He watches her confused. Meanwhile, back on the broken bridge, the mysterious slayers look down at the chaos they've caused. One of them chuckles, remarking that by following the boy, they've caught a big fish. The leader turns his attention to Riha, addressing her with a mocking tone. "Isn't that right, Princess of the Freezing Rain? Riha Amamiya?" The leader of the Slayers mocks Riha, revealing their entire plan. He explains that the Vortex Eel's strange movements from earlier were their doing, a deliberate ritual to separate Hiro from her. He scoffs that Hiro's battle experience is all thanks to her, and it would have been easier if he had just died. He reveals that the ravine Hiro fell into is a direct path to the dungeon's lowest floor. Down below, Hiro cautiously approaches the crying girl, asking if she's all right. The girl slowly looks up. Her eyes are hollow, black pits, and her mouth stretches into a horrifying grin, revealing sharp fangs. As tears of blood stream down her face, she whispers about the boy who fell. In an instant, her body contorts and transforms. Her head snaps back as a massive, armored centipede body erupts from her, its legs scuttling against the cavern walls. Hiro can only stare in horror at the monstrous creature before him. The transformation completes, revealing the B-rank dungeon boss, a legendary species known as the Centipede Princess. With a wicked grin, she declares that Hiro will become a sacrifice for the yokai on the lowest floor. Back on the broken bridge, the Slayers tell Riha that their objective was only ever the boy. They tell her to be a good girl and leave while she still can. The leader continues his taunts, sneering at her as the last of the Amamiya yokai slayers. But his words only serve to harden Riha's resolve, her expression turning cold and determined. Down in the abyss, Hiro is already bleeding from a swift attack. He glares at the Centipede Princess, preparing himself for the fight of his life. Meanwhile, late at night in the Dungeon Seeker's management office, operators are diligently monitoring the player activity across the country. Suddenly, a frantic supervisor rushes over to Amamiya's older sister, telling her it's an emergency and to check the player information immediately. Her snack break is cut short by the sudden alarm. She pulls up the rankings, and her eyes go wide. The nation's third-ranked player now has a dead mark next to their name. She shivers, muttering that she'll never get used to how dangerous this app is. But it doesn't stop there. One after another, dead marks begin appearing next to the names of the top-ranked players. The office erupts in chaos as they realize something is terribly wrong. Amamiya's sister stares at the screen in horror, wondering if the entire system is malfunctioning. Panicked, she orders someone to get Kuga on the line immediately. Back in the dungeon, the old slayer shifts his focus, wondering what to do with Riha and the few slayers who came with her. But Riha stands her ground, staff in hand. The narration reminds us of her true identity, the Princess of the Freezing Rain, a high-ranking slayer who wields a powerful exorcism tool given to her by the Lord. The slayers scoff, dismissing her. The leader says that even among high-ranking slayers, titles are rare. His subordinate adds that she's just a young girl, famous only for her beauty and pitiful fate. Done with their games, Riha's demeanor shifts entirely. A powerful aura explodes around her as she declares that protecting Koryu Karace is her duty. She grips her staff and warns them to stand back. The slayers are stunned into silence, taken completely aback by the sudden, immense pressure she's emitting. The leader realizes with a jolt that her title isn't just for show. Riha stares him down, her voice cold and commanding, and offers him one chance. Surrender, and I won't harm you. But the leader ignores her threat. Believing she can't win against their numbers, He orders his men to subdue her, so she can't rescue the boy. Seeing they won't back down, Riha's eyes narrow with deadly intent. With a cold expression, Riha unleashes her true power. Dozens of diamond-shaped crystals materialize in the air around her, glowing ominously. The slayers can only stare in shock and confusion. In an instant, the crystals transform, extending into a massive arsenal of spectral weapons. Spears, axes, hammers, and blades of every kind float menacingly in the darkness. This is her legendary class armament, the imaginary extension technique, Blue Shower. Riha stands calmly in the center of it all, her eyes closed, ready to pass judgment. One of the slayers begins to panic, shouting about the countless weapons surrounding her. With a cold, steady gaze, Riha simply raises her finger, giving the command. The slayers charge forward, undeterred. The leader yells at them not to be afraid, confident that they can counter every strike. At Riha's command, the ghostly weapons shoot forward to meet them. The muscle yokai slayer and a ninja-like comrade leap into the air, preparing to strike her down with brute force. Riha remains perfectly still, her face devoid of emotion. As the attackers close in, she simply fades away, turning completely transparent. The Slayer's attacks smash into the spot where she just stood, hitting nothing but air. They stare in disbelief, shouting, "She vanished." The muscle yokai Slayer looks around in a panic, frantically searching for any sign of her. But she is nowhere to be seen. A chilling realization dawns on the Slayers. Not only has Riha disappeared, but the countless weapons that surrounded her have also turned completely invisible. The leader is stunned, admitting that he can't sense her presence at all. His men cry out in confusion, and he orders them to stay calm. But panic is already setting in. He frantically orders his men to prepare for attacks from all directions, insisting that any attack must be preceded by killing intent or some kind of sign. But as he speaks, an invisible spear pierces one of his men from behind. The ninja cries out in confusion before collapsing. The muscle yokai Slayer turns in horror, screaming his comrade's name as a blade bursts from his chest. Before he can even finish his thought, he too is mercilessly impaled by a storm of unseen weapons, his body riddled with blades. In his final moments, the muscle yokai Slayer gasps that it's impossible. He couldn't sense any warning at all. The leader watches in sheer terror as his forces are slaughtered, screaming, "What the hell is happening?" The massacre continues. Slayers cry out for help as they are cut down one by one, struck by blades they never see coming. This is the true terror of her power. A rain of weapons that brings death without being seen, heard, or felt. This is the freezing rain. Gritting his teeth in a mixture of fury and terror, the leader decides he has no other choice. He roars, pouring his energy into the ground to deploy a powerful magic barrier. A complex sigil glows brightly beneath him. He explains his trump card, a high-concentration magic barrier deployed in all directions. He believes that even the Princess of Freezing Rain can't possibly move through this space without creating ripples in the magical energy, which will finally reveal her position. The leader sneers, confident in his trap. He declares that the moment Riha enters his domain will be her last. But before he can finish his gloating, an invisible force smacks him square in the face. He's sent flying from his pillar, crashing towards the ground below. Riha reappears in the air, floating calmly on one of her spectral weapons. Looking down at her defeated opponent, she states coldly, "It's useless." A faint blush appears on her cheeks as she thinks to herself that there's only one person in this world who can find her. The leader crashes hard on the platform below, his body broken and his pride shattered. Riha lands before him and tells him to surrender, stating that further combat is meaningless. She informs him that he will be taken in for investigation regarding his attack on a player. But the old man refuses to accept defeat. He screams that the 1,000-year-old techniques of the yokai slayers must not be handed over to those without pride, and that if they hadn't fallen so low, dungeon seekers would never have existed. Riha cuts him off with a sharp "be quiet." He ignores her, ranting that she has dishonored their lord and forgotten her pride. He then laughs, gloating that by delaying her, their victory is assured, as Hiro has likely already been sacrificed to the yokai below. He descends into mad laughter, mocking what he sees as a pitiful end for the distinguished Amamiya family, and tells her to continue selling herself and her sister to Kuga just to survive. Ria's patience has run out. With his final words, the leader cackles that they have won. He channels his remaining energy into his magic circle, telling her to behold the pride of the yokai slayers as he prepares to self-destruct. The magic circle implodes, triggering a massive explosion that completely obliterates the platform he was on. Riha easily flies clear of the blast on one of her weapons, remarking with slight annoyance that she hadn't expected him to blow himself up. She looks down into the chasm where Hiro fell, her expression firm. She thinks to herself that the old man's understanding of the situation was completely wrong. With absolute faith, she declares that Koryu Kurace will defeat the boss on the lowest floor, even without her help. The scene cuts back to Hiro, who is desperately fending off the dungeon boss. The centipede princess lunges forward, its monstrous body moving with unnatural speed as its forked tongue darts out. Hiro lands a solid blow, but his sword bounces harmlessly off the creature's armored exoskeleton. He stares in shock, realizing the legendary yokai can use a magic barrier. The princess whips its massive body around for a devastating counterattack. The boss is unbelievably fast. Hiro barely manages to block a strike, only for the creature to appear behind him in an instant, forcing him into a desperate defense. He grits his teeth, a fresh cut bleeding on his cheek. That was too close. Every single one of the boss's attacks is fast, heavy, and aimed to kill. A cold sweat runs down his back as he realizes the truth. The centipede princess is 1 or 2 entire levels above any enemy he has ever faced before. But instead of fear, a wide, manic grin spreads across Hiro's face. As he faces down the B-rank dungeon boss, his combat addiction takes over. A true challenge, a fight for his life. This is exactly how it should be.